disaster funding denied by the federal government.
FEMA has announced it is rejecting Gila and Mojave County's request for $30 million in federal help after damaging flooding in September. Our Ashley Rodriguez has more now from Globe.
Governor Hobbs is condemning FEMA's decision, saying the homes, roads, businesses, and infrastructure are left devastated by the historic monsoon flooding this fall. And on Christmas Eve, the timing of FEMA's denial is all the more disappointing.
Yeah, nothing says America first like, let me check my notes here. The federal government telling Arizona, sorry, your deadly disaster wasn't bad enough for funding. You're on your own in the future. Now, as you may recall, Arizona faced record flooding back in September. Homes were destroyed, roads washed away, and lives upended. But under the Trump administration, well, that's not enough to merit assistance.
Today, President Trump toured hurricane damage and met with victims in North Carolina 4 months after Helene battered the state.
And he's also been critical of FEMA, saying that the recovery is taking far too long. Our Mark Martinez is here now with more. Mark.
John and Ellen, during his tour, Mr. Trump strongly criticized the Federal Emergency Management Agency for their response to Hurricane Helene. In fact, he said he's considering eliminating the agency altogether.
I think we're going to recommend that FEMA go away, and we pay directly. We pay a percentage to the state, but the state should fix this.
That's the headline from President Trump's visit to storm-ravaged North Carolina today.
Arizonans, particularly in the rural counties of Gila and Mojave, faced an unprecedented natural disaster that actually took the lives of 3 people, and yet the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, has just denied their requests for a major disaster declaration that would unlock federal funding to help them rebuild and, of course, plan for the future. Now, the state of Arizona assessed the preliminary damage at more than $30 million, a total that would normally trigger federal assistance. Governor Katie Hobbs formally requested a major disaster declaration from FEMA, the mechanism that unlocks federal relief funds to help rebuild roads, bridges, utilities, etc. But we found out just a day or so ago that FEMA said no. They concluded the flood impacts, quote, did not exceed state and local capacity. Predictably, Arizona's own leaders are furious with Governor Hobbs condemning the decision and saying that she would appeal it. She went on to stress that this leaves Arizona to fend for themselves after this historic flooding with no federal partner in sight. And as well, those county officials who were on the front lines echoed that sentiment, saying that the flooding destroyed infrastructure and local economies. Without federal support, they warn that recovery will be painfully slow and will strain already limited local budgets.
More than $30 million in estimated damage. But the federal government has rejected Arizona's request for disaster aid, writing in a letter to Governor Katie Hobbs that, quote, supplemental federal assistance is not necessary. The agency said the flood damage is within the capabilities of the state and local governments, something the mayor of Globe disputes.
We don't have $30 million lying around in our pockets to be able to do these projects.
This means Gila and Mojave counties won't get federal disaster money and resources to help rebuild crucial infrastructure.
We're still dealing with broken sewer lines that we're repairing.
This year, the Trump administration has withheld disaster aid from other states with Democratic governors, including Maryland, Illinois, and even Colorado, which had devastating wildfires in August and major flooding in October. FEMA also told Colorado federal aid wasn't necessary there. Both Arizona and Colorado have sued the Trump administration, challenging everything from cuts to FEMA grant funding to President Donald Trump's tariffs, with Arizona filing 35 lawsuits so far. Attorney General Chris Mays telling me in a statement, quote, it is outrageous and cruel that the Trump administration is abandoning Arizona's and Mojave and Gila counties, particularly right before Christmas. In recent days, President Trump has approved disaster declarations in 2 other states, Montana and Kansas. FEMA has said the agency's decisions are not political. Meanwhile, Governor Hobbs vowing to appeal the denial, and Arizona's 2 senators, both Democrats, promising to help.
We're going to continue to fight and make sure that we can appeal this successfully.
Now, while cutting aid isn't unprecedented, FEMA denial letters happen sometimes, but the context matters here, right? For decades, federal disaster assistance has been the safety net that allows local communities overwhelmed by natural disasters to rebuild and recover. However, under this administration, the Trump administration, they've sought to shrink federal disaster assistance to states and have denied disaster relief to places like Colorado after wildfires and floods earlier this year. And that merited strong objections from Colorado's governor, Jared Polis. Now, under the Stafford Act, a president can unlock additional federal assistance by declaring a major disaster. Arizona officials have echoed calls for aid as communities struggle to recover from this flooding. But when you reduce or restrict aid without clear public guidance about why a particular disaster doesn't qualify, then it leaves families impacted and the local government involved stranded for when the next disaster hits, which it will.
It's amazing that they gave us a no on it, knowing the devastation that took place here, a river that flowed through our city that actually killed 3 people in the process.
Governor Hobbs announced the state will appeal the decision, but while they wait, a number of families remain homeless, their homes condemned, and businesses struggle to replace windows and refill shelves.
I know what it's like when your cash register goes out and your credit card machine goes out, your computers go out. Those are expensive items. People need that money now.
The mayor says even with the state covering the cost, that only goes to cover the infrastructure costs. It's the federal dollars from FEMA that would help residents and businesses get back on their feet.
And politically, this is a mess for the Trump administration. For one thing, disaster funding or recovery funding shouldn't be a partisan issue, you know? It's something that Texans, Floridians, Californians, Arizonans alike have historically supported across the political spectrum. But the thing about Donald Trump is he makes it partisan.
So we are in the communities across Western North Carolina. I have been with Governor Cooper for the last week and understanding and talking to the local officials about where their needs are, which is why we've surged in more resources. And they are going from the pods to people's doorsteps to make sure that they have the food and supplies. We are going to continue, Jake, to have that level of presence and sustain that operation, because we also know that they're going to be a long time before the water and the power is restored. We're going to have to continue bringing these resources in to everybody that's been impacted, especially in these more remote areas that have limited access.
But have all of the remote areas been reached?
At this point, we have teams that are every county that has been impacted. We've been working with the state to make sure we have not missed anybody. As I was with Governor Cooper this morning, we're getting positive news about progress being made. But we don't want to stop. We do want to make sure we have reached everybody. And so we're tracking that, and we're going to make sure that we continue to support the governor as long as he's needed.
They will make a heroic effort to try and do so. I actually don't think that's going to significantly impact the election, but the amount of disinformation is really extraordinary, although it's not just being put out by the Russians and the Chinese. I mean, former President Trump told us that the people in Springfield are eating dogs and cats, all right? I mean, you know, he likewise said that FEMA money, our emergency money, instead of helping the people that have been hit by the hurricane, is being used to help illegals. I mean, he just makes it up. And so he is able to spew enough disinformation that the Chinese must be smiling.
We all remember his comments last January in the wake of the LA wildfires. He has to make it about himself. It is his instinctive response when disaster hits.
Donald Trump is now weighing in on the horrific fires in Los Angeles County, and he's laying the blame on California's Democratic governor. He said on Truth Social, quote, Governor Gavin Newsom refused to sign the water restoration declaration put before him that would have allowed millions of gallons of water from excess rain and snow melt from the north to flow daily into many parts of California, including the areas that are currently burning in virtually apocalyptic way, and saying, quote, he is the blame for this.
And as I mentioned, it's not just Arizona. Across the country, governors have complained that FEMA denials, which were once rare and reserved for truly extraordinary events, are actually now more common under this administration. Even in instances with severe damage from storms and floods or tornadoes. And as a result, it's sparking bipartisan outrage and political backlash from both state leaders and local leaders alike. But where is the president when things like this happen? Well, he'd rather go on unhinged late night rants than, govern the country.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.